Hi, friends. It's Sarah, the Fat Culture Critic. So the world is scary and dark, and yeah, but on a good thing, we have new Star Trek, Starfleet Academy. It's been out for a couple weeks now, and I've seen 3 episodes, and I really enjoy it. I know not everyone will. I think it's very much not everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. I don't think anything well made actually is everyone's cup of tea. And there's a number of things that, I recognize that are very good, but just not my thing. And this is very, it's kind of specialized. They're kind of trying to meld the Star Trek world and ethos and all that with the tropes and genre conventions of young adult sort of buildings romance, coming of age kind of thing, sort of Buffy 90210, that sort of thing. And there are tropes inherent in that are not going to be to everyone's taste. A lot of relationship-y stuff, a lot of people acting kind of awkward and inexperienced because they're kids. They're awkward and inexperienced. There's all this stuff to do with bullies and competition and stuff like that. And that's not going to be everyone's thing. And that's fine. There are plenty of valid reasons to, not be into this. But that being said, there's also some very silly reasons to not be into it. Especially to not be into it without ever having seen it. And we've got some very silly folks who are making a stink and saying it's not Star Trek and and they're very upset about one thing in particular that is of my particular wheelhouse, which is fat representation and body diversity. So let's talk a little bit about why the fascists are freaked out by fatties in the future. We've got some delightful characters like Elon Musk and Stephen Miller tweeting about saying that there's somehow it's weird that somehow the future has forgotten Ozempic and LASIK, is his complaint about there being larger bodied people and people with glasses in the future. And Stephen Miller is saying they need to give Star Trek to William Shatner to fix. And
excuse me.
Apart from the fact that he's an old man, he's retired.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question.
Have you seen Star Trek 5? Do you want all of Star Trek to be Star Trek 5? I mean, I enjoy it, but not because it's good. Yeah, so they're annoyed that there are larger bodied people in the future. And I saw some people respond by pointing out that there's been larger people in the future before, and Scotty in particular, and Kirk's been seen to have a middle-aged spread and all. And I will get into that. Why that's I understand, but that's not actually an answer to the problem that they have with it. So yeah, they're upset, particularly by this one image with Lara Thuk and Captain Ake and another character whose name I didn't actually catch because she's kind of like a background secondary. Maybe we'll see more of her. Who's a larger woman. And there's some other people of different body types around, and there's people of different ability levels around too, which I think so. They're trying to do the infinite in diversity and infinite combinations thing, and I like that. But let's talk about the size diversity and why it freaks them out. Why fascists are freaked out by fatties in the future. Okay. So there's one argument that they always make, that there shouldn't be fat people in the future, because in the future, in Gene Roddenberry's future, all diseases are cured and all things are fixed. And that, like, you're immediately assuming that all fat people are diseased, but in terms of disability, we have not ever in Star Trek seen a future where all disability was cured from existence. We've instead seen a future where disability is accommodated, where Geordi has his visor actually seen diversity as strength, because that's always been an ideal of Star Trek. It's not always been handled well, but it is usually something people have tried to do. That's sort of, infinite in diversity and infinite combinations. Aside from that, the question of whether fat people would be in this future or not, actually doesn't matter. It is entirely and completely irrelevant because fat people exist now and we are watching. Because Star Trek is not and has never been meant to predict the future. We will never have Star Trek's future. We won't. The Vulcans don't exist. The Klingons, unfortunately, because they're cool, don't exist. Warp drive, we may have some way of getting faster than light travel, but it won't be what we see, because what we see is fiction. Speculative fiction is fiction. And the purpose of speculative fiction has never been to actually predict the future. It has always been written for the people at the time for when it was written. Jules Verne did not predict the Apollo project when he wrote Earth to the Moon. He was writing about to speak to his time and the excitement about travel and discovery that was, big in his time. When they made the film out of it, that is about the excitement of the new technology of film more than anything, and the possibilities of that. Like, it's speaking to that. And yeah, the idea of that, helped to inspire people who went on to create the actual technology that got people to the moon. But Jules Verne was not going, I can predict that we will go to the moon. And I will write, and what is in either the book or the film is not what anything like what the Apollo missions actually looked like, because they were shaped by the real challenges of life. When 1984 was written to go to the dystopian version, George Orwell was writing to the fears of his time, the fears of fascism and surveillance and all of that of his moment. He wasn't imagining what 1984 actually would look like. He was saying, what if the things that choices that people are making now, where might that lead, to try and expose to the people of his time, to get them thinking about the conditions of the time and them thinking about the choices they were making. When Margaret Atwood wrote Handmaid's Tale, she was thinking about Phyllis Schlafly and the rise of the religious right, where that might lead, to get the people of her time thinking about the choices they were making with regards to these people that they were not taking seriously. And where it led is not where it led in the book. Like, we are living in a world created by those people and created by some of the ideas that she was thinking she was trying to grapple with. But that's it's not how the world actually ended up, because real life is not fiction, and it's complicated and it's weird. And yeah, when they were writing Star Trek, they were pitching a future that's like a reflection of the ideas that they were and the issues that people were dealing with at the time. The question of diversity they were thinking about then was, the civil rights movement. And that's why we have like the writers who were in the writers' room, their perspective on that and where it might lead and how things might ideally be.
Leave any bigotry in your quarters. There's no room for it on the bridge.
But it was written for 1960s. There was a reaction to the feminist movement, but it's not particularly, it's sort of like, I'm never going to be the captain. Interesting gender dynamics, because it was written by people living in the 60s for the audience who were living in the 60s. Every iteration of Star Trek has been written for the time it was written in, and is more than anything a reflection of the time it is written in. And there are aspects that endure, because when something is very good, and not even that it's good, but when something speaks to some truth of humanity, it stays with us. And there are aspects of it that will reflect to us and that we will find new things in. But always, fiction was written for the moment that it was written in, and for the people who are reading it or watching it now. So it does not matter whether there will be fat people in starships someday if Earth becomes a multiplanetary culture. It does not matter whether there will be fat people in 3,000 years, because that's not who this story is written for. This story is written for me to watch it. For my, for the kids coming up now. They were written, it was written for you. It was written for us to watch it. And there are fat people in our world now. And so the argument that we are having when they say that there should be no fat people in the future has absolutely very little to do with who should be in the future. It's about who has a right to a place in society now. When we're looking at representation, it is always about who has a right to see themselves now. How much of their life and their reality do they get to see? We look at the women in Next Generation, where they're allowed to be there and they're allowed to be subject of the story sometimes, but they're always in caregiver roles. That's not a reflection of how women of the future will be, women of the 22nd century. It's a reflection of how people of the 80s who were optimistic about the future imagined the place of women. It was better than the place of women was, but it was still somewhat, limited. And then when we get to Voyager, we see women in leadership roles, but, Janeway still very much has to conform to certain masculinized ideas of authority. And we see Seven of Nine has to do everything in a skin-tight catsuit. And she's not the first woman character to be in it, but it's the most egregious example of someone having to be in a skin-tight catsuit so tight they have to have oxygen fed to them. I wrote about that before. This is the most that they could imagine women's roles in the moment they were in, that they were writing for. And I think they knew it was going to get better, but this was the most they could get away with on television for a mainstream audience. And all of that was mostly very much straight-sized women. And it's only, with Tilly that we finally got a little more diversity, and now we get a little more. And we get to see, with Ake, we see someone who is aging. Although Holly Hunter is an incredibly beautiful woman, she's allowed to be seen to be aging on screen, which is not something that has always been. It's Dr. Pulaski, but we know how this audience reacted to them, right? And we now have characters of larger sizes. And of course, I should point out that Laura Thirk is not actually a fat person, not actually a fat character. She's just broad. She's big and muscular because she is a Jem'Hadar and Klingon hybrid. That's someone who is going to look, more like an Olympic weightlifter, which that's not a Hollywood body type, but it is still and I'm not saying she's not fat as a defense thing. Obviously, I don't think fat is bad. It's just being accurate. This is a person who is broad, and she is beautiful. She's not, straight male gaze kind of standard of attractiveness. And why shouldn't the queers get to see someone that's a bit more to the sapphic gaze now and then. Especially since she is in a gay relationship, and we finally get we finally get gay relationships that are seen as relationships, because we are trying to move representation forward, because we're trying to do representation as the people of now need to see it. And that's why this has nothing to do with the accuracy of imagining the future. This is about arguing over who has a right to see themselves on screen. And they don't want us to see ourselves on screen, because it's an argument about who belongs in society. It's eugenics and capitalism. And that's why I come back now to Scotty and the whole, we have seen larger bodies in the past, because what is the one thing about Scotty that is different from the characters that they are upset about? Could it be his gender? See, there's a tendency these days to try and pick about some of the fascy folks' talking points, which appear at first to be hypocritical. Because they're saying certain people have a right to certain things and other people do not. And why are, other people should not be carrying those things or should not be doing or saying those things. And this seems to be hypocritical, just as it seems to be hypocritical that they say that they can't be fat people in Starfleet Academy when there was Scotty in the the films, in the TOS films, and he was fat, and nobody has complained about that. It's not hypocrisy, because the underlying logic of fascism is not that the rules apply to everyone. That's our logic. We're looking at their things and wondering, why doesn't it make sense under my logic? The thing about Scotty is he is white, he is male, he is successful, prosperous. And the thing about fascy folks is their underlying ideology is not actually that rules apply to everyone. It is that there are people who make rules and there are people who follow rules. And the straight, white, male, prosperous people are the class that make the rules, and they are not bound by the rules. So that is why that is the group you will see represented as being fat, and there isn't a problem. Yeah, in life, you will rarely see people complain. People from that side of things complain about the existence or the representation of fat people. But if they see someone who is not in that class, who is fat, they will be upset unless they see them being punished. Because that's when you look at the vast majority of fat representation of people who aren't in that category, it is people who are being ridiculed or ashamed or mocked, being disciplined for failing to follow the rules set by the rule setters. They are the ones who see themselves as deciding who belongs in the future, which in fact is them saying who belongs in the world now. It is saying who is worthy. And their definition of who is worthy is the people who follow the rules set by the rule makers. And actually, the weird thing is that this isn't only held by people who belong in that class. Some people are really happy to be ruled if they feel that the right people are doing the ruling. Don't ask me why. I will never understand it. But that is the thinking. So yeah, it's not hypocrisy. We are judging them on a different rule of, but their underlying ideology is that there are those who rule and those who are ruled. And we are being unruly, undisciplined, and inappropriate. And so they want us to see us punished, or they want to not see us. And this is why they're freaked out by this version of Star Trek having larger people just being people. Like this character is a side character. I didn't pick up her name, and I haven't seen her in any of the episodes yet. And there are other larger characters as well, and just living their lives and being different people in different bodies, and that is scary because they're not being shown in a hierarchy. They're not being shown being disciplined for being different. They're not being shown trying to fit the ideal. They're not going to like Lurka Thork because she's not working for the male gaze or male approval, which is part of why I love her. That is the thing that scares them when we reject. We are not, trying to match their ideals. And I'm really glad that Starfleet Academy isn't trying to match their ideals, that it's doing its own thing. I don't know how long we'll have it for, because it doesn't feel built for a media environment like this. But maybe we'll get lucky. But whether we do or not, I intend to enjoy every episode we get. And I hope it gets gayer. I hope we do get to spend more time with this character and other fat characters, and I hope it gets queerer, and I hope I hope we get more, but we may not. But while we get to enjoy what we have while we have it, so that's all we can do. And in a world that is dark and scary, where the fascy folks are trying to take everything, we can at least hold on to the things that we like and say, no, you don't get this. This, for as long as it's in the world, it's mine. It's ours. Because it was made for us. It wasn't made to predict what the future would look like. It was made to say all people belong here. Now. Even if they're built differently or speak differently, remember that the fiction that is written now is written for you. The fiction that was written for the past was written for the people of that time. But if it leaves a mark, then it is also for you, for what you take out of it, and for you to find the difference between the people of then and the people of now, so we can learn. The thing about speculative fiction is always meant to sort of give us something to try and learn from. So that's my thoughts on Star Trek, Starfleet Academy. And I am looking forward to seeing more of it. And I hope you enjoy this little chat. And little chat about fascism. Oh, that's fun. Anyway, once again, I thank my Patreon supporters, whose names should be there somewhere. Thank you. It's always appreciated. I released another video this month, which is a conversation I had with my friend Finn talking about joy. I am planning to try and get out one of those a month, hopefully in addition to other videos. We'll see how it goes, but I'm going to try and get out these conversations about joy with friends, thinking about joy and its role in resistance, and joy and identity, and just trying to make a little space that's not doom. So I hope you'll I hope if you didn't check that one out, because it doesn't do well in the algorithm, because joy never does. But if you didn't, if that appeals to you, I hope you'll check that out, and I hope you'll see the next one. And if that's the sort of thing you'd like to support, I would welcome your Patreon supportage, but I know things are dark. So just take care of yourself and one another. And let's get through the dark times.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question.
Captain Kirk is climbing a mountain. Why is he climbing a mountain? Captain Kirk is climbing a mountain. Why is he climbing a mountain?